Hello, Julie here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Okay, so I'm going to do the closure now for my journal. I've got some coffee dyed seam binding here that I'm going to use as my closure. I'm going to put an eyelet in here, and I'm going to try and get it in the middle. And let's get a ruler. So that's a fraction over 9 inches. So let's put a little mark at 4.5. So that's where I'm going to put my eyelet. So I'm going to use my crocodile. Now this cover is made of fabric, watercolour, cardstock and then another fabric. So I've got quite a few layers to cut through. Hopefully this is up to it. Perfect. Perfection. Just neaten that up a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to put my eyelet in there. And I've got one with a ring that goes on the bottom. It's hard to tell which is the right way and the wrong way for the ring. There we go. Now let's close that. Nowhere near it. And if that ring's still in the right spot. So I'm going to take it off because I don't want to get it in the wrong spot. I'm going to do it this way. So turn it upside down, put the ring on. These rings can be a bit tricky. Oh, come here. Like that. Like that. Now, let's get this up through that hole. And squeeze. Perfect. Perfect. Now, I'm going to thread this through here. So this is going to go over here like this. Okay, so I've got that tied in there now. You can choose which way you want to wind it, that way or that way. It's not going to make any difference. I wrap it around 3 times and tie a bow. And there we have our closure. So you can tie that as tight or as loose. As this expands, when you put your bits and pieces in there, of course there's still plenty of room for this closure to expand because that wraps around 3 times. So you don't need it to wrap around that many times. Alright, now I'm going to think about what I want to do on the cover and get that organised. So I've got a bit of a rough idea of what I'm going to do. I'm going to put 2 layers of this lace on here. I'm going to put 1 layer there and 1 layer there that wraps over the binding. So I'm going to go ahead and attach those now, and that glue can dry while I'm creating the other things to go on the cover. So I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac for this because this is fabric and this is fabric, and I'm just going to run a bead of glue down here, that's approximately straight, and then across like that, hoping that I'm somewhere near the width. Yep, and then I'm going to run another bead down there like so. Line this up and lay that on there as straight as I can. It's not perfect, I'm not worried, as long as it's some sort of semblance of straightish. Looks pretty good to me. Now I'm going to do the same for this one. I'm going to just overlap that on that lace like so. So I'm just going to put a bead of glue along this, then I'm going to run that back there over my binding. I don't really know how far it comes around the back. Best have a look at that. So perhaps if I put this on, like so, wrap it around like that. You can lay that down there, and then I can run some glue along here. Probably wouldn't hurt if I ran it along this part of the lace. That's the most outside point, isn't it? I don't use Fabri-Tac very much, but I do believe that it dries clear. So where I've got an abundance of it here, I will take some off using a wipe. So look at the front and see if the front looks something like it should. Yes. Be careful of getting glue on everything here. Okay, so now I want to get this as near to straight as I can. Okay, now I'm just going to set that aside to dry. I think that's looking nice, so where will I put it? I'll put it back here. So while that's drying, I'll go on and make some other things. Now, I've cut a couple of pieces of card here, and this one is, I think it's 5.5 inches, 5.5 by 3.5. So I'm going to make a tag out of this. I'm going to cut the corners off. I'm not going to back it because it's just going to be attached to my cover. And I also want to make another tag out of this. So I'm going to cut some corners off of this one. So I've got different size corners on my, it's an old store card, you know, loyalty card, whatever. And I've just cut the 4 corners off on different angles, and then that gives me a variety of sizes. So you can see I've got glue stuck to my finger, so you can see I've got a bigger angle there and a slightly smaller, and then smallest. So that suits, I found that suits most of the tags that I make. So now the next thing I need to do is stitch around these, so I'm going to go and do that. I've also got this little label that says sunshine. I'm not going to stitch around that, that's too small. By the time I stitch around that, all you'll see is stitching, so I'm not going to stitch around that. So I'll take these two and I'll stitch around those. Okay, so I had a change of heart. This was the tag that I made to put on there, but I felt like it blended in too much, so I printed out another one from the kit and I've decided to go with this one. It's paler in colour and it's got some detail down here. Although, having said that, when I add my other embellishments, I'm probably going to cover that up. But I wanted the different colour background anyway. So I'm planning on putting that there like that. And then I thought I would add a little bit of cheesecloth, maybe a bit lower. And then I'm going to add this big sunflower, and I'll just offset that a little so we can still see this one here. And a chipboard flower. Actually, I think I'll put the chipboard flower under that one. Do you want that like that? No, I think it looks better with that out. Like that. And then I've got this sunshine. I thought I'd just tuck that in under there, like that. So what do you think of that? Oh, and I've got this bit of lace. I was going to stitch it on, but when I was stitching around the tag I forgot it. So that's my plan. So do we need this lace on here for starters? If we put that on there, does it get lost in amongst that, or does it add something? It's a little bit of extra texture, I guess, so I will add it on there. A little bit of glue there, pop the lace on that side, turn it over, a little bit of glue on there, and catch that bit in there, like that. Okay. Let that dry for a second. So, when we've got this shut, so it's got to come over that way very well. I don't want it interfering with the closure. So I'm going to pop it so that corner there, so we've got about 3/8 of an inch there on a bit of an angle. I'll use the Fabri-Tac once again for this. Spread that out a bit. Now, pop it up there, about there I reckon. So where's my wet one? The glue from sticking the lace on is probably not even dry yet, but oh dear, impatience, eh? Okay. Now this one, I'm definitely not putting a tag, a lace on this one. I'm going to try and overlap that a little bit like that. So some of this will be on the lace, but most of it will be on the paper. There, like so. Now, this little bit of cheesecloth. Can just go on there. I might fray that a little bit before I put it on. I can definitely fray it more afterwards, but doesn't hurt to do a bit before I stick it down, does it? Glitter glue doesn't stay that wet for that long, so perhaps it might have to wait. I'll have to do it, or add more glue, one way or the other. I suppose it's going to make that much difference, is it? Just making this a bit tatty looking. Bit aged, I think the saying is, not tatty looking. Okay, so with my inky fingers, that's just sticking to it. Got to use my palette knife and see whether that's it. It's still wet enough to grab that. Now then, our flower. I'm going to stick this on first. This is going to go under the flower. I have inked around all of these before I stuck them down. I did that off camera. You don't need to watch me ink around things. I'm sure you know how to do that. And anyway, not everybody does it, so it's not really relevant to everybody. But it is something that I like the look of, so I do it on 99.9% of my journals and embellishments. Sometimes I forget, but as a general rule, I would always ink. Even when I was doing cards and scrapbooking, I always inked around the edge of everything. I just like the way it looks. Helps everything stand out from the layer behind it, I think. Okay, so that's going to go in there like so. Let's see if we can get a tissue to just tamp that down a bit. Rightio. Do we actually need that chipboard flower, do you think? Does it add something to it or not really? What do you think? I'm not that sure, to be honest. Yeah, I think it does add something. We'll add it on. It's just that I don't want too much texture on there with the, with the closure rubbing around there. I don't want it to come off. I'm putting plenty of glue on there though. So there we have it. That is our journal. Now, if I wrap this around, where's that going to go? Yes, that's right. Okay, so there we go. That's my journal finished. So I'm going to have next video I'll do will be a flip through of this, and when I do that I will then list it in my Etsy store. Do I want those strings hanging down there? I suppose they're alright because there's a bit of black around here. Okay, now as I said, I'm going to put this in my Etsy store, and I have left cottons hanging everywhere. If the person that buys it doesn't like the cottons, you can always cut them off. There's no problem. It's not going to be detrimental to the construction of the journal. So there we have it. There's our cover that we did today. We've got the coffee dyed seam binding and the vintage lace and the embellishments. So yeah, alright, well that's it. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have and you're not already a subscriber, I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel. If you are a subscriber already, well, thank you very much for subscribing, and if you give me a thumbs up, that would be fantastic. Alright, well thanks for joining me, and I hope you can join me for my next video. Okay, bye.